to accelerate from a dead stop, like they do at Mach C Bloom. Cars have to face steep inclines, like on the dynamometer at Bloom. Cars have to pass at high speeds, like on the Clayton dynamometer at Bloom. We tune cars the way people drive cars. Mach C Bloom, we take care of your car from the tires up.
Listen to the songwriters of the future, 7:30 tonight. Connie Chung, Jess Harlow, Jim Hill, Meclovio Perez, and Bill Stout's Perspective. The Channel 2 News at 6.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel 2 News at 6. There is an invisible killer in the Los Angeles area tonight and 5 people are dead. The killer is carbon monoxide gas seeping through a Westlake District apartment building. Channel 2's Bob Dunn is on the scene while police and fire inspectors search for the source of the gas. Bob?
Well, Connie, they believe now that the source of that gas is a faulty vented heater in the basement. There's no actual confirmation of that, but everything seems to point to that. There was some work done on a heater in the basement. And that death toll has been changing all afternoon. First we heard there was 6 and then 5, but now the death toll has been confirmed at 4. 2 persons died on Sunday when the first call came in. 2 more died today. 1 was taken to the hospital in critical condition, and many others have been treated. The bodies were removed from the scene just moments ago. As I mentioned, there were 2 dead on Sunday. There was a 50-year-old female and a 60-year-old male, and then there were 2 persons found dead today as the carbon monoxide coursed through the building. The reading was 600 parts per million on the first floor when they tested it, 400 parts per million on the second floor and the third floor. Many firemen, policemen, and paramedics were treated for the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning, and we talked about that with Ed Reed of the fire department.
Monoxide is odorless, it's colorless, and it's tasteless, and it's very possible that those found Sunday were thought to be of natural causes. It's only a speculation. When they came back today and found the others, at that point they knew that something was haywire. We called our people out to take readings. We called the health department out to take readings, and at that time they found out that the carbon monoxide levels were extremely dangerous.
And they were extremely dangerous. They claimed 4 lives, and 1 other person's in critical condition. Many people, as many as 3 dozen people, have been treated for the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning, but none of them is considered to be in serious condition. And that's the situation now from this apartment, 3-story apartment house with 30 units. 30 people were evacuated from it, and I don't believe they'll be allowed back in it tonight. They cleared the air with fans, but obviously there's still carbon monoxide in the area, not in lethal doses, however, and that's the situation up to now. Now back to the studio.
Bob, in order for that carbon monoxide to seep up through those 3 floors, as you indicated, that would have to be more than just a space heater in the basement. It must have been the furnace for the entire apartment building.
Well, we haven't been allowed in that area, and nobody will confirm that, but I know from talking to a representative of the gas company that they did not do the work on it, but they believe that nor did they inspect it after it was done. But it was a contractor, we're told, who's worked for the apartment owner before, and obviously, as you suggest, it must have been more than just 1 gas water heater to create that amount of carbon monoxide, 600 parts per million on the first floor, and they said that actually when they took their meter only goes up to 600, and as soon as they turn it on, it just pegged. So he said it was much higher than that. So it was a large source of carbon monoxide, but hopefully they will have sealed off that source before this night is over.
Thank you, Bob. The spying capability of the Los Angeles Police Department is on hold tonight. The Police Commission voting late today to disband its controversial intelligence gathering division, PDID. Channel 2's Ross Becker is here with more. Ross?
Just this police spying controversy was dumped in the lap of the Police Commission after secret files were found in a Long Beach garage. Secret police intelligence files, which were supposed to have been destroyed years ago. The ACLU and other citizens groups demanded that the police shut down its public disorder and intelligence unit. What the commission did this afternoon was a compromise.
The commission was handed a proposal by Commissioner Reva Tooley, who herself was the focus of a PDID investigation and whose file was found in that Long Beach garage.
So it seems evident to me that PDID has become a problem of such major proportions that it threatens to tarnish the reputation of the department as a whole.
Tooley's plan calls for PDID to be deactivated in 45 days, to have all its records sealed for review and destruction by the Commission. But any PDID activity which has to do with anti-terrorist intelligence, the proposal says, should remain intact.
The focus of law enforcement should be on violent crime and terrorism, not on activities loosely defined as disruptive of the public order.
Tooley's plan was unanimously approved by the other commissioners.
I believe that the problem of international terrorism will exist with us for some time in the future, unfortunately, and that problem, while it may find the Olympic Games to be a focal point, that problem will continue to exist.
Intelligence gathering is a very, very complex, difficult task. It cannot be and never will be as pristine, pure as some would like it.
With its vote, the Commission may have diffused a bomb, a political and legal bomb. But the ACLU and the citizens groups who demanded PDID be closed aren't ready just yet to celebrate.
If there is probable cause to believe that a law is being broken, that there is serious criminal activity being conducted or is imminent, we think the police department is more than justified in investigating that evidence. However, that doesn't mean sending undercover police officers into lawful, peaceful organizations to monitor people's political and personal relationships with each other.
The ACLU is worried that even under the new plan, there would be opportunity for abuse. It's now up to a special committee formed by Chief Gates to come up with new guidelines for police spying, but the critics say the fight is not over because they feel any spying by the police on any group is simply unconstitutional. Connie and Jeff.
Thank you, Ross. Mayor Tom Bradley will be our in-studio interview guest just a bit later. We'll ask him his reaction to the Police Commission's action today. Jenny Folt, head of the California chapter of the National Organization for Women, was indicted today in Louisiana on charges she murdered an Argentine businessman 17 years ago. Folt is in custody here in Los Angeles. She is fighting extradition. She was in court today. Her attorney asked for bail. The judge refused. In the indictment, she is accused of clubbing Moises Chayo to death with a tire iron during a robbery. The indictment came after the Louisiana grand jury heard testimony by Folt's ex-husband, John Sedote. He is a prisoner in Nevada State Prison. He is also involved in the case, but he has agreed to cooperate with authorities by testifying against his ex-wife.
If you are counting on a state income tax refund this year, don't. State finances are in such desperate straits. The word from Sacramento is there may be an IOU in your mailbox instead of money. Channel 2's Tony Cox is here with more. Tony?
Honey, not since the 1930s has the state of California used registered warrants, those are IOUs, to meet its financial obligations. But in the face of a budgetary crisis, the state controller now says warrants may indeed be necessary, and he says they would be used not only for state employees and vendors, but also for any California taxpayer expecting a refund check.
California will pay more than $2 billion in state refunds to millions of taxpayers this year, or at least it's supposed to. But as the state faces a budget deficit of more than $1.5 billion, State Controller Ken Corey today confirmed reports that 8 million California taxpayers may get state warrants instead of refund checks. He says that is the worst-case scenario if there is no budget resolution by the end of the month. John Vasconcellos, chairman of the Assembly Ways and Means Committee, says the danger of bankruptcy is real and that so far there is no change in the governor's deficit spending plan, and therefore he calls the use of warrants the only alternative short of a balanced budget. All of this puts more pressure on Governor Duke Majan, whose latest version of a spending plan reportedly calls for paying off huge bank loans by June 30th. The governor was unavailable for comment on Corey's threat to use IOUs.
Now, within the last hour, an assistant press secretary for the governor said Duke Majan's official budget proposal was just introduced to the legislature today, calling for, among other things, internal borrowing and the selling of tax anticipation notes. The governor's office feels, if passed, it has a chance of preventing use of the warrants described by Controller Corey. But again, the key question is if it passes, and even more importantly, when. Connie, Jeff.
Anybody talking at all about if you get one of those warrants as a refund, then you have to pay state income taxes next year, you send in that warrant as part of your payment?
Hey, that's a good idea. Nobody talked about that today, though.
Let's keep that in the hopper, then.
You bet.
Thank you, Tony. The U.S. Supreme Court is deciding this week if people who tape television programs and movies on their home video recorders are breaking the law. At stake is the billion-dollar home video recording industry, which claims that most people only record programs to watch them at other times. However, companies that produce the shows and movies argue millions of viewers are collecting huge libraries of copyrighted programs, and they're violating copyright laws. If the movie companies win, makers of video recorders such as Sony could be forced to pay continuing royalties or even be made to stop selling their machines. Theoretically, owners of home video recorders could also be sued, although the chance of that is considered remote. Jess?
Barney Clark is back in the operating room at this hour for the third time since his historic heart surgery. Doctors at the University of Utah Medical Center are trying to stop Clark's severe nosebleeds. He's had to take anticoagulant drugs ever since receiving the world's first artificial heart, and the drugs contribute to nosebleeds caused by a gastric feeding tube. We're told the surgery will continue for at least another 15 minutes. Doctors now admit this is a definite setback in his recovery, and he will not be going home as soon as expected. Local researchers tonight are pleading for the return of 3 valuable and quite dangerous laboratory monkeys. The baby monkeys, such as this one, were stolen over the weekend from the VA hospital in Sepulveda. The animals are valued at about $3,000 because they're an important part of a scientific study on socialization, something the monkeys are uniquely capably studied about.
They should be regarded with the same caution that a stray Doberman pinscher might. Their teeth are very much like needles, or almost like razor sharp, if you will, and can do quite a bit of damage if a person approaches one and one decides to protect himself.
Directors of the research lab believe the theft may have been an inside job, since those monkeys will allow only trained staff members to get near them.
Still ahead on the news, a bit of whimsy in San Bernardino as that Russian nuclear satellite drops towards Earth. A victory for the family of famed athlete Jim Thorpe. It happened here in Los Angeles today. And a visit with some of those daring old men who used to fly those machines.
This year, you're faced with over 100 changes in the tax laws and forms. Changes like increased child care credits, another that provides increased deductions for an IRA, and another, and still another. I'm Henry Block with one of my 17 reasons why H&R Block should prepare your taxes. The changing tax laws. Our preparers have studied them for months. We know all the changes.
The new tax laws, this year's #1 reason to come to H&R Block.
When you're ill, a doctor is as close as your phone. Now there's SOS, doctors who care enough to come to your home 24 hours a day. SOS Doctor, 222-1111.
Announcing the lowest priced car in California, bar none. Colt, $47.90 base sticker price, imported for Dodge and Plymouth. Get yours with 11.9% financing.
It's Bob's January Chicken Snack Special, only $2.29.
This looks more like a dinner.
Yeah. Well, it's a snack.
Oh, no, it's too much for a snack.
It's the snack, sir.
Are there more?
It is a story of medicine and ethics. 2 South Bay doctors charged with murdering one of their patients went to court today. The problem is not that they removed their patient from a respirator, but that they then refused to provide foods and liquids to him. A preliminary hearing began today. Channel 2's Patty Ecker was in the courtroom. Patty?
Well, it's a case that could provide answers to the question of who. The doctors, the family, the courts. Who has the right to decide whether a patient should be kept alive by life support equipment? In court today, the 2 doctors who said their decision was made out of concern for the comatose patient and his family. And across the table from them, the deputy district attorney who calls their action murder.
Dr. Robert Nadel and Dr. Neil Barber are the first doctors ever to be charged with murder in Los Angeles County under these circumstances. Their case began in August 1981 when Clarence Herbert's heart stopped after routine surgery. He was resuscitated, but severe brain damage had occurred. In a deep and what his doctors called an irreversible coma, the patient was placed on life support systems at Kaiser Permanente Hospital in Harbor City. The Herbert family said no heroics and gave permission for the respirator to be disconnected 3 days after surgery. But when Herbert continued to breathe on his own, Doctors Nadel and Barber ordered the intravenous feedings and liquid to the patient be stopped. 6 days later, their patient died. Dehydration was listed as one cause of death. The lawyer for Dr. Nadel argued today that to call that murder could destroy the medical profession.
There are physicians in Los Angeles now, and I talked to one of them 2 days ago, who have relatives dying of cancer, for example, and are afraid to have them go into the hospital because they'll be hooked up to a machine And because of these crazy DAs in this county, they'll be afraid to the doctors will be afraid to disconnect.
The investigation began when a nursing supervisor at the hospital complained to county health officials that the doctors had been wrong to deny the patient food and liquid. The nurse said she had talked to Doctors Nadel and Barber and complained that the patient was not receiving proper care or life support. 3 weeks after the patient, Clarence Herbert, died, she filed a formal complaint. She called it an act of conscience.
It's very difficult to be employed by an employer and with a group of people that you truly like, and performing a duty which you are very involved with. When you find you cannot support all the decisions of that employer, then I feel there is no choice but to resign your commission, even though it may be an extremely difficult decision for yourself, and the consequences very difficult to deal with.
That nurse will be the star prosecution witness. The deputy district attorney would not comment on the case, except to say that he believes there's enough evidence to try the doctors on murder. That a judge will decide after he has heard all the testimony from the preliminary hearing.
Hattie, it's so nice to have you back.
Thank you very much.
You're going to be with us 3 days a week, right? At least?
Well, at least. I think, yeah, at least.
Good. And the babies are 6 months old now?
Babies are a half-year-old tomorrow, and they're big, and they're still as noisy as they ever were.
Good.
Come to work to escape.
I did. This is my vacation. I didn't know that when I left, but this is my vacation.
Glad to have you back.
Thank you very much.
The U.S. State Department has ordered the expulsion of a Polish news correspondent. That move comes in apparent retaliation for Poland's expulsion last week of the United Press International correspondent Ruth Gruber. The Polish correspondent has just 2 days to get out of the country. State Department officials say the expulsion of Gruber was an attempt to intimidate Western reporters in their coverage of events in Poland. Connie?
The White House rolled out the red carpet today for Japanese Prime Minister Yasuhiro Nakasone. President Reagan and Nakasone reaffirmed the alliance between their two countries. The U.S. wants Japan to increase its defense role in the Pacific as well as expand its market for American goods. Outside the White House, demonstrators braved below freezing weather to protest Japan's whaling practices. They displayed a 30-foot-long whale balloon and charged Japan's whaling fleet with slaughtering a beautiful and majestic endangered species. Let's find out about that rain that's supposed to come and haunt us now, Mac Lovio.
Well, Connie, it's not too far away. As a matter of fact, near the Point Conception area, they're already reporting shower activity. And from now until midnight, the rain will slowly start moving into the basin. In the Santa Barbara area, they're expecting up to an 80% chance of rain, 60% in our valley areas. And in downtown, we're expecting about a 40% chance of rain. So we're expecting something to roll in later tonight. Here's our satellite picture, and you see that band of clouds from northern California through the Central Valleys and on out to sea off of Point Conception. Good possibility of shower activity moving in. There's also a good possibility of some snow in the local mountains. The forecast expects the snow level to drop down to about 5,000 feet. So here's the forecast as we expect for tonight. We're expecting turning clouds increasing, 40% light rain, that's downtown. Rainy and windy Wednesday, but then clearing and cooler late Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday and Friday look fairly decent at this point, even Saturday. Probably by Sunday will be the next time that we get another frontal system. Of course, we'll have details on all this a little bit later on in our show. Connie, Chris?
Thanks, Mike. The Pentagon says the Soviet nuclear-powered satellite falling to Earth could crash through the atmosphere as early as next weekend. Its descent has speeded up in the past 24 hours, raising more concern that radioactive fragments may fall on a populated area. But in San Bernardino, one newspaper is treating the incident with a bit of whimsy. Steve Kometko has more.
On any given day in Southern California, chances are good that you may not see the sky or anything that's in it. Sometimes it's because of smog or fog or haze or all of the above. Now, usually that's no cause for alarm, no big deal. But sometimes what you can't see can hurt you. That's the belief of the folks at the San Bernardino Sun newspaper. It's offering its subscribers a life insurance policy for $100,000 against what might fall from the sky, specifically the nuclear-powered Soviet spy satellite Cosmos 1402, currently hurtling out of control towards Earth.
It's a $100,000 insurance policy to cover against personal and property damage, and it's available to all of our subscribers.
It's too soon to tell exactly where the spacecraft will come down, although Soviet scientists say it will probably burn up during re-entry. Although the life insurance policy is only available to subscribers to the Sun, the folks at the paper say it's more than just a gimmick to get new readers. Do you expect to pay off on it?
Well, certainly not, but if it happens, we will.
We tried to find out what the odds are of the Soviet satellite actually hitting somebody when it crashes to Earth. We called Las Vegas. They couldn't tell us. We asked the people at the Sun, too, what their best guess was, and they said the odds of the satellite actually hitting somebody are astronomical. In San Bernardino, Steve Kometko, Channel 2 News.
Next up, Mayor Bradley, a guest in our newsroom. We'll talk with him about some of the city budget problems and those changes in police intelligence.
You can't argue with success. Nissan Motor Corporation's 9.9 annual percentage rate truck financing is saving buyers money. And now we're extending 9.9. So you can still save from $900 to over $1,500 in finance charges alone on any new Datsun truck. To join the crowd, while we still have trucks and you still have time.
Datsun, we are driven.
Mr. Brady, I'm concerned. I want a cold medicine I could depend on.
For years, people have depended on Dristan. Look.
A big Dristan tablet?
Right. See? Dristan's yellow layer relieves these 6 symptoms. Some medicines stop at 6, but Dristan also has a white layer to relieve 6 more symptoms.
6, 6, 12. I'll try it. Mr. Brady, from now on, I'll depend on Dristan.
Depend on Dristan. It relieves 12 cold symptoms.
Shopping around for car insurance? Most companies treat you the same, especially if you've had a couple of tickets.
Oh, Harry.
A reckless driving conviction?
Oh, Harry.
Or a teenage driver?
Dump the kid, Harry.
Things are different at Public Insurance Service. We appreciate your business and will go out of our way to save you money, possibly as much as 50%. Give us a call.
At Public Insurance Service, it's no problem. And keep the kid, Harry.
Nice to see you again. Nice to be back.
Come to a Sheraton showplace.
Sheridan, you've got taste.
You're gonna love every inch of the place. We've got taste. Taste the Sheraton showplace style.
Taste Sheraton style worldwide on your next business trip. Call 800-325-3535.
We've got taste, we've got taste, we've got taste.
Sheraton, your style makes the difference.
We've asked Mayor Tom Bradley to join us on a day when there's been a good bit of activity in the city. We're concerned, of course, about that, $32 million budget deficit the city is going to have. But even later than that is the development of the police department and the disbanding of the Public Disorder Intelligence Division, the PDID. Do you support that?
Yes, I do. This was an agency of the police department that clearly had gotten out of control. Not as to every one of the men assigned there, but certainly the overall performance was such that in the last few weeks when the disclosure was made that 90 boxes of material was found outside of the department, unauthorized, placed in the garage or the home of one of those detectives, the end had come. It was clear they had to do something. And they've abolished that unit. The essential responsibilities of anti-terrorist control will still be carried on in other parts of the department.
This goes a bit further, doesn't it, really, to the question of civilian control of the police department. The police commission clearly had ordered that those files be destroyed, and that order was clearly disobeyed.
Clearly a violation of that order. I think that it was reprehensible that that had happened. And the commission is to be commended for stepping in and taking vigorous and decisive action.
Well, then, do you think that more should be done beyond disbanding? In other words, some action be taken against those responsible?
Yes, the grand jury is now investigating this matter, and it is likely that some criminal action might be filed. Certainly disciplinary action will be taken.
Do you see a downside, though, to this, that perhaps intelligence that should be conducted will be so scrutinized that proper intelligence cannot take place?
Not at all. I don't have any fear about that whatsoever.
Even with the prospect of the 1984 Summer Olympics and the always present threat of terrorism connected with that?
They have always clearly acknowledged that that kind of investigation, undercover, would be appropriate. But in these cases, they were investigating people for political views, private individuals, politicians, those who had no desire, no evidence of criminal activity. they were the ones who were the subject of these investigations, and that was clearly a violation of the department policy set down by the commission.
The police commission heard Police Chief Darrell Gates suggest that he was responsible for what went on with PDID. Will he take some of the heat for this, too?
Ultimately, it must fall upon the chief, and to have him say that he acknowledges that responsibility, I think, is appropriate.
Mayor Bradley, we are facing such incredible budget problems in the state as well. I mean, we're hearing that we may receive, instead of tax refund money, we'll be getting IOUs. And in Los Angeles, there's incredible dire straits. What?
I think when 8 million Californians who are supposed to get refunds, checks, that they thought they could spend, instead are going to get warrants, they, I think, will clearly get the impression that we're in desperate straits. And it is my hope that the legislature, if not the governor, will come up with a plan to make up for that budget deficit. We simply cannot tolerate that in this state or in this nation.
What about the city problem, though? When the city faces a $32 million deficit, you freeze hiring and place a freeze on the purchase of any new equipment, but you don't raise taxes. But you have been critical of Governor Deukmejian for doing almost the same thing you have done and saying he's not going to raise taxes.
Because his proposal simply won't work. It is built, off of false premises. He, for example, says that a certain amount of sales tax revenue is going to come in next year, and every economist that I know says the premise is wrong. It won't work, and he can't get that much money.
The difference is your problem is not as acute as his, then.
That's it, exactly.
Mayor Tom Bradley, thank you for being with us. We appreciate your joining us.
Thank you, Connie.
We have more news coming up. Our 2 in Focus report, Jim Thorpe gets his medals just 71 years late.
Bullocks is making the world just a little more beautiful with a special bonus from Lancome, the Beauty Voyager, yours for $16.50 with any Lancome purchase. A roomy duffel with 2 easy pockets and a beautiful surprise inside. Lancome's best: lipstick, moisturizer, eye cream, body lotion, and their incomparable mascara, the Beauty Voyager. Only $16.50 with any Lancome purchase. Now at Bullocks. What a beautiful way to live.
Hello, I'm Freddie Laker, the chap who tried to get you Yanks overseas for as little as possible. It was a good idea. Now I've found another way. By telephone. You can dial a 1-minute call from the States to the United Kingdom for only $1.25. Each additional minute is only 76 cents. If you've got family and friends in the UK who'd like to hear from you, try Bell. Call them.
Bell brings the world closer.
What's the success of Zachariol? Very, very simple. We carry thousands upon thousands of garments, and we don't carry closeouts. We carry brand new merchandise, all hand-tailored. Whether you're looking for cadets, portly shorts, portly regulars, regulars long shorts, extra longs, we'll stagger you with the inventory, and at prices that nobody can beat. Right now at Zachariol, we have a tuxedo on sale at $99. We sold them at $135. People are coming in from all over the country to buy them. Why don't you?
Strong, protective, flexible and heatable, Reynolds Wrap. The aluminum foil you can count on for Reynolds Wrap quality. If it's worth wrapping, it's worth Reynolds Wrap. The good food wrap.
He has been called the greatest athlete of all time. But Jim Thorpe was denied the greatest honor of his life, the Olympic gold medals he won in 1912. Today, 70 years later, those medals were finally returned to the family of Jim Thorpe during an emotional ceremony here in Los Angeles. Channel 2's Ruth Ashton Taylor takes a look at the athlete and the controversy in tonight's 2 in Focus. Ruth?
Well, Jess, officials of the International Olympic Committee referred to what happened today as a unique, historic occasion. Replicas of the medals won by Jim Thorpe, called one of the greatest Olympic athletes ever, were presented to Thorpe family members over 70 years after the originals had been taken away from the athlete himself.
He was pretty rotten, you know. He's only paying for his apartment and stay to eat. And
It was pretty rotten. That comment today by one of Thorpe's great-grandsons, Anthony Kosakowski, echoed the sentiments of Thorpe's family members and thousands of others who had lobbied Olympic officials and worked for this day.
The battle's been going on almost since they were returned in 1913, with one group or another, with a sports writer. That's why I told you before, the news media had a lot to do with it.
The head of the International Olympic Committee, Juan Antonio Samaranch, recalled that the executive board of the IOC took action in the Thorpe case last October.
Jim Thorpe was reinstated as winner of the pentathlon and decathlon events of the 5th Olympiad.
The story of the great American Indian athlete Jim Thorpe is well known. He excelled in all sports, won gold medals in the decathlon and pentathlon events in the 1912 Olympic Games in Sweden, and scored a world record total not surpassed for 30 years. It's been said that when Sweden's King Gustav said, "Sir, you are the greatest athlete in the world," Thorpe replied, "Thanks, King." But a story in a Massachusetts paper in 1913 reported that Thorpe had played semi-professional baseball, earning $2 a day, and his amateur status was revoked. His medals and his Olympic record were stripped from him. Today, 30 years after the death of the great athlete himself, 6 of his 7 children and many grandchildren and great-grandchildren were present as Thorpe's Olympic record was reinstated.
I would like to say, as the chief of my tribe, and for Indian people all over the United States, the honor today of our father being reinstated for the Indian people and for the sportsmen and the children of the United States. Thank you.
The family members who had worked so hard for this day were given replicas of the gold and silver medals won by Jim Thorpe.
I would like to donate this medal to the Olympic Hall of Fame in Lausanne, Switzerland, to represent my father, the late Jim Thorpe.
I'm not going to donate mine to anybody. I'm going to keep it and keep it for my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, everybody.
After the impressive ceremony, it wasn't difficult to find some very happy members of the Thorpe family. You're Mark Thorpe. Mark, they say all of you are good at athletics. What do you do?
I play football, and I'm on water polo.
How do you feel today?
Great, pretty good.
And over here, it's Patrick Cannon, and you look pretty happy.
Oh, yeah, I still have lumps in my throat, I think. Yeah. Really choking. Very nice, Ken, nice.
How long was he active athletically? Did he keep up all his interests?
He was actually playing semi-pro football well into his 40s. And when he was 50 years old at Kezar Stadium in San Francisco, he gave a drop-kicking of the football exhibition. He stood at the 50-yard line and drop-kicked the ball through the end zone one way and turned around and drop-kicked another one, the opposite direction.
You'd be awful proud.
We are. The whole family is very proud of him.
A rewarding day for the family of Jim Thorpe and a unique occasion in the history of the Olympic Games.
What a wonderful story, huh?
A wonderful story that he lived, and finally now it has become fulfilled for his family.
Thank you, Ruth. Still ahead, Bill Stout and some thoughts on what they could have done to save Social Security and didn't, plus the man who did do something when he saw a purse snatching.
There's no way he could have got away from me. Poor guy was doomed to start with, really.
Drink up the savings at the great Alpha Beta Juice and Drink Sale.
The savings don't stop.
Alpha Beta's pouring on the savings. They've reduced the price of over 50 fruit and vegetable juices and drinks. Favorites like High C, Ocean Spray, Treetop, Tree Sweet. And when you buy them by the case, you get them at our cost. To save on over 50 juices and drinks, come on down to Alpha Beta. On the double.
Alpha Beta,
Tell a friend. Tell a friend.
Walls, the musical encounter.
If you want to feel power, learn to know what's real. Dig down deep inside, learn not to hide. That'll give you juice.
You'll get in touch with feelings you didn't even know you had in a hot tub.
What are you all feeling right now, huh?
I think I'm getting the warm fuzzies.
Walls, the musical encounter, starts January 25th at the Huntington Hartford Theater. To charge tickets, call 851-9750.
Hi, we're at Dr. Beecham's dental office to interview patients. Sir?
Yeah.
You have beautiful teeth. In fact, I've never seen such sparkling teeth. They're so bright I gotta put my sunglasses on and continue this interview.
Yeah, sure. Beautiful now, but you should have seen them before.
Oh, bad, huh?
Bad. What toothaches? Oh, Dr. Beecham saved my teeth and my money.
Oh, your money?
Yes, my dental insurance covered everything for my family.
That's nice.
Yeah, even my mother-in-law, who has Medi-Cal, is welcome.
Well, there you are, folks. Make Dr. Beecham your family dentist in Los Angeles and Orange County.
How much money can you save on a Cadillac? See your local Cadillac dealer and he'll demonstrate it to you. During demonstrator days, he'll show you terrific deals on demonstrator DeVilles, Sevilles, Eldorados, and Cimarrons, and show you a way to drive one home with 11.9% GMAC financing. And if you hurry, they've got a limited number of courtesy Sevilles from the LA Open. How close are you to owning a Cadillac? See the demonstrator Cadillacs at your Southern California Cadillac dealer and find out.
A 20-year-old Orange County man is in custody tonight on charges of assault and attempted robbery. It seems he met his match in a man nearly 3 times his age and 3 times as fast. Orange County correspondent Dave Lopez explains.
He's 51 years old, a 30-year retired veteran of the Marine Corps. Now he's a safety training supervisor for Dial-A-Ride in South Orange County. And when Jim Brantner saw a young man running off with a woman's purse, he didn't hesitate to get involved.
She was yelling, and I didn't know if she'd been hit by a car or what. And I happened to look up the other way, and I saw the guy running with a purse in his hand. And I realized then what happened. He took off down the parking lot alongside the wall, and I just took off after him.
By the time Brantner started chasing the suspect, the 20-year-old had a good 50-yard lead on him through this parking lot. But Brantner says he wasn't worried at all, not even after he had to climb a fence and continue the chase, because Brantner, you see, is in excellent condition for a man of 51 years of age. He jogs 7 miles every day.
Not much chance that he was going to outrun me. I just stand behind him, wait till he gave out, and then I was going to, close the gap on him and take him.
How'd you get him?
I just closed the gap on him and grabbed him.
You dove at him?
Yeah, dove him out. He's out in the street, and it was kind of hairy. There's no way he could have got away from me. Poor guy was doomed to start with, really.
The people in the bank think you're a hero.
Yeah, well, they... It's kind of embarrassing. I'm not a hero at all.
But to other people, Brantner is something special.
To think that a person has that feel of caring for their fellow man, which is missing nowadays, and to be so much older and still try to help this woman, I think it was tremendous.
That was beautiful. He did it. He jumped right over the wall.
The woman whose purse was stolen offered Brantner money as a reward, but Brantner wouldn't take it. So instead, the woman gave him a big hug and a kiss on the cheek. Brantner said that was real nice of her to do that. Dave Lopez, Channel 2 News, El Toro.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are hoping to save the Social Security system with a bipartisan compromise proposal. The plan would raise $169 billion, much of it through higher payroll taxes. In his perspective tonight, Channel 2's Bill Stout says there is one solution that might have made the latest proposals unnecessary. Bill?
And the solution is really nothing new. Some experts have talked about it for years. Simply a matter of investing the billions of Social Security dollars more wisely to bring a better return, keep the whole program in better shape. Senator William Proxmire hit that point with a bill he introduced nearly 2 years ago. There were then some $46 billion in the Social Security bank account, and the government invested that huge sum, so it earned just a bit over 8% for the entire year. That was 80 and 81. Inflation was much higher then. The return on big money also was higher. The law says Social Security money can be invested only in government or government-backed securities, and that's a good idea. But Proxmire pointed out that many private money funds, also investing only in government stuff, did much better. They got up to 13.5%, more than half again as much as the government itself did for Social Security. Ask why the wise men in Washington do so poorly, and Proxmire says conflict of interest. Because the law gives actual management of Social Security funds to the Treasury. The Treasury Secretary is one of the trustees. And the Secretary is supposed to make as much as possible investing for Social Security, but the Secretary's real job is at the Treasury, where the first concern is paying the lowest rate of interest they can get away with. A classic case of conflict, with the Treasury buying for Social Security and selling to Social Security, selling, of course, what's best for the Treasury, not for Social Security. Proxmire figures that cost the benefit plan at least $2 billion in 1980, and who knows what the total would be for all the years that high-level con game's been going on. All we know for sure is that older Americans who paid into the system in all good faith are now being told cost of living adjustments will have to be delayed and other benefits reduced. And younger workers still paying into the system will have to pay more. That's the plan, with final action up to the same Congress that created this mess. Whatever evasive language they use back there in Washington, to many working Americans who counted on Social Security, it comes down to breach of contract, the U.S. government going back on its word. That simple, that appalling.
Robinson's solid brass lamp sale is happening now. You'll save 50 to 58% on our solid brass lamp collection from Imperial Lighting. Your choice of 15 styles, each just $69.99. Choose from our large collection of wall swingers, table lamps, and floor lamps, all at 50 to 58% savings. Your choice, just $69.99 during the solid brass lamp sale now at Robinson's.
Got a quote on our car insurance today, dear?
With your driving record, Lester, it's probably a fortune.
Not really. As long as we don't eat, sell the kids. Of course, the car will have to go.
If your current insurance company considers you a problem driver, call Public Insurance Service at 990-8383. It's possible we could save you as much as 50% on what you're now paying, and that can be a lot of money.
We can keep the car.
And the kids?
Let's think about it.
At Public Insurance Service, it's no problem.
The secret's vitamin E. Every little vitamin every day.
Massive doses.
Think, sink. Confused about vitamins and minerals? Consider Myadec, a professional formula with precise dosages of the vitamins and minerals you need.
It's everything I want in a multivitamin mineral formula.
Complete, balanced, high-potency Myadec from Park Davis.
I want to see skyscrapers.
On TWA, kids fly free.
I want to go to Hollywood. Me too.
If they're under 18 and with an adult,
Pacific Ocean.
they can fly TWA in the USA absolutely free.
White House, yeah, that could...
Grown-ups get a break, too. Just $99 each way to lots of great places.
I want to see the Pacific,
No kidding.
You're gonna like us, TWA.
Jim Hill has sports. Jim?
Thank you, Jess. Against Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers, the Kings return to the Forum tonight after their longest road trip of the season. Roy Firestone is at the Forum with Kings center Terry Ruskowski. Roy?
Right, thank you very much, Jim. The Kings have had some rough times of late. They're coming off a long road trip, and I mean even longer than they had anticipated. Think about it, when you really look at the fact that you lost in New Jersey, one of the teams that really was on the bottom last year, Terry, I'm just curious what that did to this team in terms of demoralizing this club.
You know what's really depressing, Roy, is that we played, every game we played pretty well. We've outshot the other team except for twice, and we tied them in shots on net. What depresses us is we play good 2 periods, real good, and then the 3rd period we just something happens and we're just not there at that particular time, and we get 1 goal against us, and all of a sudden the whole team kind of dies and say, well, here we go back and run again. We're not in the winning ways, and getting that goal back, it's a little more tougher now than it was before. So we have to break out of that, and what we can do is win a couple games back-to-back, and I think after that, go against us wouldn't hurt as bad as it does right now.
And to add insult to injury, or maybe add injury to insult, look at the shot you took in the nose. I don't know if we can get a good shot of that, but this was in the New Jersey game, right in the bridge of the nose.